action, action, action. So this is the medieval play of Daniel, described by its pioneering scholar in England as a medieval opera. And that's quite a good way to think of it. It's like, of course it's medieval, and it's like an opera in the sense that we have roles, we have a story, we have acting, we have words, we have music, we have movement, drama, all the things you would want to find in an opera. The date of performance of this play was originally happening just after Christmas, while they were still celebrating Christmas. And it was mixed up with the traditions of the Feast of Fools, which was a day of traditional craziness when all the rigid discipline of the cathedral, of the monastery, was just turned upside down. So the most junior boy got to be the bishop for one day, and everything is crazy in that one day. Every movement of the body, how to kneel in prayer, to hold a sword, to bow the fiddle, every medieval gesture is intended to have a specific effect. Movement depends on your surroundings and demonstrates which social group you belong to. Monks process towards the altar. Musicians dance at a party. Soldiers march into battle.
This is the army of Darius coming. So if you have that mental picture that you're in this cohort, so you like, boom, you move as an army. Rex Darius!
At this moment in the play, the rubric directs that King Darius suddenly appears with his army, and the harpers go before him. We read of the same practice in a 12th century account of the Norman conquest. The first blow at the Battle of Hastings is struck by William's faithful harper, Taillefer. And this was the genius that they found in this Daniel story, a way to get all the crazy things, all the bad things, the wrong things, they got all of them into the story.
The music of the play is characterised by the strong rhythms of conductors for the many processions, and memorable turns of phrase for dramatic speeches. We made a new performing edition, preserving rhythmic information from the original manuscript, but without fixing details not specified in the medieval notation. We also preserved the notated pitch, taking one pitch standard for the entire play. This is probably the first modern production in which Daniel sings at the notated pitch his anguished lament at the lion's den. Ever since Christopher Page's pioneering work with Gothic voices in the 1980s, debate in medieval musicology has polarised around the question of instrumental participation. In 2011, Max Harris's New History of the Feast of Fools agreed with Fassler that Ludus Danielis employs its ludic means for devotional ends, that all the frolics and folly really are sacred. However, he repositions the play as a response to the secular tradition of New Year games, rather than as a reform of ecclesiastical excesses. Harris, too, is particularly concerned about instrumental participation. He recognises the general principle that, in a drama, the sung text also implies theatrical action. So, what are the performers doing whilst they sing about clapping hands, dancing, and musical instruments? Harris makes the point that a 20th century Anglican congregation singing the psalm, "O clap your hands together, all ye people," would be horrified if anyone actually did clap. But a Baptist Church gospel choir certainly would clap hands and dance. Hallelujah! We cannot judge by the standards of 20th century churches, not even by the intellectual fashions of modern-day academia. We have to find historical criteria. Scholarship is never complete until the result has been seen in practice, wrote Andrew Hughes in 1991. Whilst academics often provoke debate by suggesting multiple possibilities, performers have to make decisions. In medieval liturgy, the rubric, red-lettered instructions, tells priests what actions to make during Mass.
In the Daniel manuscript, this rubric reads like stage directions. To run ahead and expel Belshazzar from his throne, as if killing him. This as if, in Latin quasi, establishes theatricality, the dramatic convention of make-believe. Towards the end of the play, the evil counsellors are thrown into the pit and are instantly devoured by lions. Clearly, no one actually dies. There are no real lions. Equally clearly, actions are taking place in this play that would never be allowed within the normal liturgy. We simply cannot tell how far the original performers might have followed the sung text's encouragement to clap hands, dance, to play the kinds of instruments that clerical musicians practiced, fiddles, harps, psaltery, or even lower class instruments, bagpipes, shawms, and drums. But history of emotions studies can help us reframe the question. As we imagine performances around the year 1200, knowing that for religious purposes shock tactics were employed, what might the limits have been? If today we present dancing, clapping and instruments, we should help the modern audience perceive this as shocking. But just how should we be appropriately inappropriate? This is, of course, precisely the dilemma that the compilers of the manuscript faced as they attempted to impose order on play, ludus. There in the church, monks played soldiers, princes, foreigners, and animals. Teenagers mocked senior academics, dressed up as women, paraded the sacred vessels, held running races, killed the king, watched lions devour corrupt politicians. Meanwhile, harps were seen prominently. Would it have been unacceptably shocking if those harps actually played? Probably we will never know. There is an academic argument for a performance without any instruments, but I suggest that there is no argument for discrete use of instruments. Instruments were not normally allowed. If they do play, they must shock. That is their religious purpose.
In the context of our investigation of the history of emotions, our production sought to explore below the surface layers of medieval drama and the fun of the Feast of Fools. What deeper emotions are unleashed as the monk's play bursts out of the rigid ordo and hierarchical structures of their single-sex society? What does it feel like when the play ends and the endless round of psalms and prayers resumes? One of our singers put it this way: game over.
And this is what we're trying to show the audience, not just some nice medieval music, not even a medieval opera. We want them to get an idea of these complex ideas of the normal life of the monastery, the moment of craziness, and how this craziness is cleverly packaged into the Daniel play.